Frontline Records Rewind. Frontline Records Rewind. Frontline Records Rewind.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi, I'm Les Carlsen, and you're listening to Frontline Rewind, and I'm here with Crumbacher. Would you guys, these are the original members of Crumbacher.
We are.
Yeah, they're right there in front of me. I'm here with them. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself? And this is why. We want them to identify by your voice who you are, okay? Starting
I'm
with you.
Stephen Crumbacher.
Hi, Steve.
Hello.
I'm Dawn Wisner Johnson.
And I'm Jimmy Wisner.
And we're here. Frontline Records Rewind. And what's the first song?
Thunder Beach.
Here it goes.
Once lightning strikes, rainbow power illumination, burn on, holy flame. Heroes of light, in the hour of expectation, turn on to the flame, because they know how to play real rock and roll for the souls who dare to reach, and they stand their ground when the waves come down on Thunder Beach. Thunder Beach, tempest to its gale, interplays of reprehension, shake up to the core. North winds prevail, castaways of all pretension, wake up on the shore, because they know how to play real rock and roll for the souls who dare to reach, and they stand their ground when the waves come down on Thunder Beach. Thunder Beach, yeah, they know how to play real rock and roll for the souls who dare to reach, and they stand their ground when the waves come down on Thunder Beach. Thunder Beach. Once lightning strikes, candle power illumination, burn on, holy flame. Heroes of light, in the hour of expectation, turn on to Jesus' name, because they know how to play real rock and roll for the souls who dare to reach, and they stand their ground when the waves come down on Thunder Beach. Thunder Beach, yeah, they know how to play real rock and roll for the souls who dare to reach, and they stand their ground when the waves come down on Thunder Beach. Thunder Beach.
Well, I got to tell you, I was really excited to come and meet you guys again. You know, we met each other not too long ago
Right.
With Adele. And now, Jimmy, I didn't meet you, but it's good today. And she said, well, it's Crumbacher. So I started listening, you know, to the Crumbacher stuff, and found myself dancing, and I was amazed at how many keyboards you guys must have dubbed and overdubbed. Wow, Stephen. It was awesome. When did you guys first form?
Well, we first met actually in high school. Don and I and Jim were singing in the same youth choir at church. So Don and I, both being keyboardists, we kind of formed that bond, being musicians and all. And I think we were about 15, 16 years old, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Boy.
I know.
All right, everybody, let's think about
You know
what that
what?
was like, right?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got to be good friends. And, just, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years later, when Don's family came back from the Philippines, they were missionaries over there. They came back to the States. I had an opportunity to record some stuff for a ministry resource center over with Maranatha Music. And so I told that, talked with Don about that, like, would you be interested in working with me and helping with this stuff? And so we kind of formed the band. It was 1983.
End of 83, after the summer.
Yeah, Jim had just graduated high school.
18 years old, Jim.
I was 18.
You were young. Wow. And so, yeah, we didn't really know where it was going to go. We just, like I said, I had this opportunity to create some songs, and they were going to kind of guide me. Ministry or resource center.
It wasn't even really decided exactly.
No, they didn't really.
What the album, or if there was even going to be one.
Yeah, it was just kind of like
What's Shaken.
Yeah.
So Stephen, how did that happen? Because because they knew you had this talent and the voice.
I did it the old-fashioned way.
And all that.
I did it the way they say never gets you anywhere,
Okay.
and that is I wrote a letter to whoever at Maranatha. I didn't even know a name. I just sent it to Maranatha Music because all my favorite artists were on Maranatha Records in the day, and that's is a local label in Costa Mesa, and so to me that was like, well, that's where I need to be signed if I'm going to be a recording artist. It has to be Maranatha. So I sent a letter saying, where can I send a demo tape? And I was probably about 17, 18 years old at the first time I did that, and they wrote back and said, here, send it to this person. And I did, and I kept sending them over and over and over, and they were always really supportive. Like, just keep working at it, and just let us hear when you got some new things. And eventually, one of them stuck, and I got a call back from them, and they wanted to meet me. And
so, did you sign with Maranatha?
Well, yes and no. It's kind of an odd way there. I started off one weekend. I got a call actually. A couple days before, I got a call. They were doing a compilation album called What's Shaken, and it was all of the, I guess you'd say, alternative bands in the area. At the time, people like Undercover and Altar Boys and Youth Choir at the time they were still called. And I don't know who, but one of the artists either dropped off or they were one short last minute, and so they called me up and said, would you like to come down this weekend and record one of your songs? And I think we had been...
Had they honed in on that song?
They did.
Yeah,
Joey
I was
liked
gonna
that
say.
song. Joe
what
Taylor.
Was that song?
It Don't Matter.
Okay.
That was the first one I ever recorded, and Joe Taylor really liked what I was doing, being a keyboard person. Joe Taylor from Undercover.
Yeah. Wow.
Or Ojo, or I don't know. He has several different names.
Joey.
I'm not sure.
Ojo,
Joey.
yeah.
He was always he had been very supportive from the very beginning. He liked what he was hearing. And so finally, he said he wanted to work with me and produce that one song. And so I had about 3 or 4 days notice, and I couldn't believe it. Like, wow, I get to go into the studio and meet Joe Taylor in person, and Jim Nicholson played guitar on the song, and
Oh, wow.
it was like,
That's the guy with the mohawk.
yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it was like a dream come true. I mean, getting to do that.
Hey, this is Adele, executive producer
Hi,
of
Adele.
Frontline Records Rewind. Yes, I worked at Maranatha Music.
That would be
then.
where I met you, huh?
Yes, so Stephen and I go way back. Yeah, what was the name of the song again? The demo that then got put on the...
It Don't Matter.
Can we play that? Because that's like...
Oh.
And that'd be 1980... What?
I recorded that in 1983, and then we re-recorded it a year later for Incandescent. So there's 2 versions. I'll let you decide which one
Let's
you want.
do Incandescent, because that was your
That was the
amazing album.
That was
and
the
that was
album
the very
it was
first
on.
big album release. So...
All right. Engineer, could
Do
you
it.
pull up Incandescent? Thank you.
Yes, and It Don't Matter.
Crumbacher.
Everyone's coming up with new ideas. Time has made them see that there's so much more to reason. Only a fool will disagree. They say I'm such a hopeless romantic, still believing in fairy tales. How can there ever be any such thing as a love that never fails? Still I'm gonna believe the way I do. They forget about the old traditions, 'cause they were never really meant to last. Welcome to the 1980s, where religion is a thing of the past. They treat me like I was a barbarian for believing in original sin. They say we're all at one with the universe, so we're basically good within. Still I'm gonna believe the way I do, even though everyone around me is saying it ain't true. But it don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. It don't matter what I'm thrown away, because I'm hanging on to something new. It don't matter what happened today, I know you're always there to see me through. It don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. I'll never fall away from you. Every day they're looking for answers, for something new to add to the list. 'Cause if it can't be explained through logic, then it simply just doesn't exist. I think I will stay unenlightened and carry on my own way. Besides, I'd rather put my faith in God than in the human mind any day. Still I'm gonna believe the way I do, even though everyone around me is saying it ain't true, true, true. But it don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. It don't matter what I'm thrown away, because I'm hanging on to something new. It don't matter what happened today, I know you're always there to see me through. It don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. I'll never fall away, never fall away, never fall away, never fall away from you. It don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. It don't matter what I'm thrown away, because I'm hanging on to something new. It don't matter what happened today, I know you're always there to see me through. It don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. It don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. It don't matter what I'm thrown away, because I'm hanging on to something new. It don't matter what happened today, I know you're always there to see me through. It don't matter what anyone say, I won't ever fall away from you. I'll never fall away, I'll never fall away, I'll never fall away from you. It don't matter what anyone say, I'll never, never, never fall away. It don't matter what anyone say, I'll never, never, never fall away. It don't matter what anyone say. Don't matter what anyone say.
Frontline Records Rewind is brought to you by Mize Music Group, extending the life of legacy music.
And so, yeah, I did that one song, and we'd only been a band. I didn't even know if we were really even a band. We were just kind of working together, trying to figure out what we were doing. And
It's
about
just
a
the
month,
three of us.
Yeah, it was
No
just the three of us, no
guitars.
guitar yet. So we really hadn't even found our sound yet. But it was about a month into that when I got the opportunity to do that. So, you know, and that just kind of kept leading to other things. And Undercover was always really supportive of the new groups. They let us
Yeah.
open for them, I don't know how many times. And
Awesome.
it was great. I mean, getting to do stuff like that. And then eventually, I think it was about a year later, that following summer in '84, we got the opportunity to come in and record. It was just going to be a 6-song EP. It wasn't going to be a full album. And we did record that. Recorded it in about 4 days, I think. It was like just a whirlwind thing.
Nights.
Yeah, it was just
Overnight, yeah.
incredible. But we did 6 songs. It turned out that the distributor, it was another kind of a backdoor thing. Another group that was supposed to be released on the Broken Records label, which was a part of Maranatha. It was a new label they were doing for the alternative. We weren't going to be on Broken. We were going to just be on MRC, which is more of a custom label. But another group at the last minute ended up, they weren't going to have a release for them for the initial release of Broken Records, and they needed one more group. And we had this ready.
Wow. Wow.
And it was only 6 songs, so the distributor, which was Word Records at the time, said, put them back in the studio, record a couple more songs, and we'll release it as a full album. So we didn't even go into recording our first album, which was Incandescent. We didn't even go into that, really even thinking of it as an album. It wasn't an album. It was going to be just kind of a, like I said, a getting to know you kind of EP type of a thing. And it turned into something much bigger. We had no idea.
Wow.
And so, so in '85 that was released, and that was a big surprise.
Well, it looks like the Lord was just opening
It
doors and parting the waters there and getting you in places.
It was definitely nothing. We couldn't have arranged any of it. We were just ready. That was the main thing. We're like, we just got to be ready for whatever happens.
Yeah.
Whoever calls, we got to be ready to just go do it, no matter what. And we were. I mean, I will say that we worked hard, and we rehearsed all the time. I mean, we were serious about it.
Tight.
Yeah, we were really serious, and so we wanted to make sure we could deliver.
Speaking of keyboards, that was pre-programming.
That was pre-MIDI.
Pre-MIDI even. I had
MIDI
to.
was a new thing.
He had to.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's when everybody had those stats.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, all we were doing was constantly just this. Our hands were busy.
And they weren't digital either; they were analog, so you
yeah.
couldn't save the sounds. It's like between songs, I might be
Had to be
talking,
dialing,
Don
yeah.
would be working with the dials and the levers and trying to change the
crazy.
sounds, and so that was definitely.
We had our first show at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. Were the 3 of us only there?
It was just the 3 of us. Yeah,
It was.
That was actually. Well, we that was our. We opened for Undercover and Altar Boys, the choir, and the Lifters. The New Year's Eve before
On the
that.
New Year's Eve, yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I think we were in Costa Mesa, and it was still just the 3 of us.
Right.
So
Now,
we're trying to
that
figure out our
was
sound.
that happened at Costa Mesa at the church at Chuck
At
Smith's.
Calvary Chapel.
At Calvary Chapel, and so was Jimmy Kempner involved in that?
I think Jimmy wasn't doing them
not yet.
during that time. There was a period where he wasn't doing them. There was another gentleman doing the.
But he
Lonnie Frisbee?
Wasn't Lonnie?
No,
It
no, on
was
Saturday Night Live.
Ziegler, Randy
No, okay.
Ziegler.
Ziegler.
yes,
there
yes.
you go.
That's who was
Oh,
doing
Zig Ziglar. No, another Ziglar.
it. Another different
Okay,
one.
another, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But it was the same kind of thing. It was the type that Jimmy had started back in the 70s. It was kind of a continuation of
yeah,
that.
okay, because
sort of thing.
when Bloodgood came on the scene, that's kind of one of the first. We saw Crystal Lewis there, and,
Yeah,
and
it was the
he was
place.
talking about Saturday night concerts at the church, and so you were kind of in that.
Oh, we were. Yeah,
You
we
were
played
kinda
there
like in the
every
We
middle
played
of
month.
there a lot.
Monthly.
If you were a band in
Yeah.
Southern California or
Every 2
even
months,
remotely close, Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa was one of
It
your
was a
stops.
happening
It
vibe,
was. It was.
they used
It
to
was
say.
one of the places
What was
you were.
interesting to me, in particular, a personal note on those Saturday night Jimmy Kempner gigs, was that Don and I lived overseas in the Philippines before all of this, growing up, and I was in high school, and I would somehow on TV on Sunday afternoons, I found in the Philippines that they were playing those concerts on Sunday afternoon, and I had known and watched like bands like Sweet Comfort and others that were playing Daniel Amos, all
Probably
those
was there,
bands that
yeah.
were just prior to us playing those Saturday nights, and I used to watch those. And Jimmy Kempner was there, and then coming around to to this whole business that we found ourselves in, and playing at that very same place on that very same stage.
Man, that was like a year and a half later, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened really fast.
That's
So
funny. It's almost like the Lord was showing you something that you didn't realize at the time.
I was supposed to go back to college because I was over for his senior year. I went back. I had been at Azusa Pacific for 2 years, and it's still in the choir with Steve. And Hindelong was playing drums in
Steve Hindelong,
Steve Hindelong was playing drums in the choir I was at Azusa. So I sort of knew some people, but I had no idea he was in youth choir until we showed up at one show, and I'm like, huh? You're on the same label that we are. So, yeah, all kinds of little threads were going. But I also wanted to say, Jim, about the studio when he was talking about Incandescent. Mm-hmm. Remember Joey Taylor when we brought in some of our vocals?
Oh, yeah.
We'd all get around the mic, and he's in there. Derry Darty was engineering. What? Remember that? What he would say to us?
Well, it was...
I remember him. I just remember the I don't know if it was the look or I don't remember his exact words. What did he say?
Well, because, see, with
what
Undercover...
are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
With Undercover, they would just... He's like, well,
That's
let's go in and
encouraging.
do some backer vocals. And for him, that meant doubling the lead vocal.
Right,
you know, or
okay,
just-
yeah.
And we're like, okay, we're ready for the background vocals, and all three of us go in, and we're not doubling anything. We've got
And
like
we had
these
rehearsed these
arrangements.
things, and
Yeah,
it's
we had all these
3-part,
arrangements.
you know.
of
Layers.
And he's going,
all these
I
harmonies.
don't
And he's
know.
like, "Are you sure you guys can do this?" And
I think
this is what we do. This is
I
our-
think that's what he was concerned about. Okay, but you got to do this live. You know,
Yeah.
you got to pull this off on stage in front of
we had to
the
do
rest
it live,
of the world.
and we had to do it practically in one take in the studio too, because we did not have
No,
a budget.
But I was
at
going to
all.
say,
we didn't.
should I jump ahead and say a budget?
But as Steve said, we had rehearsed,
Yeah.
but we had also all been singing.
We had.
I
whole
can't
lives.
remember when I wasn't singing. I mean, my parents, the 5 of us, were singing together as
And
a family.
harmonizing, too. You
and
guys-
harmonizing,
all
yeah.
of us.
Just and Steve would just say, "Do this," and even if it was hard, it was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it." Interstellar satellite, interstellar satellite,
Sail beyond
the outer limits of the night.
I'll escape this fallen planet to an everlasting life.
Everlasting love.
Oh, Lord, I'll be your
Interstellar satellite.
Out of the earth's debris, still I remain gazing up into the distance, treading
Les, did you know that with each Frontline Rewind episode, we have a specially curated Spotify playlist?
I did not know that. I'm on my way. So you wrote, Stephen, you wrote a lot of all the lyrics pretty much. And how does that happen for you?
I don't know. I really don't, other than, and like Dawn said, we all grew up in the church. And so what we had to write about wasn't necessarily what, it seemed like for a lot of the groups in Christian music back then, were writing from a perspective of not having been familiar with the church, coming in from the outside. And so then they were still really able to speak to the people that they grew up with, the ones that weren't
More
raised in the church.
evangelical, maybe, yeah.
And so they and there was a lot of that, and that was mostly kind of what we were seeing in the scene.
Well, that was you're talking about
Right.
Bloodgood, and
yes. And so, but here we were, and the whole thing was like, so how are you going to do your outreach? And our whole thing was like, I don't know how we would do outreach. We've never done outreach. We've always, even in our church choir, our youth choir, we always sing out of the churches, but we saw a need there too. We saw, people struggling there in the church. And we did ourselves. So we always kind of viewed that as like, if we can speak to that, that's where we're going to be. And we really got a lot of kind of criticism.
From the churches?
From the industry in the sense that it's like, you're supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to get up, you're supposed to sing the song, you're supposed to talk about Jesus, you're supposed to sing a few more songs, and you give an altar call, and this is how you're supposed to do it. And that wasn't our vision, really. And a lot of people thought, well, you're just in it for the fame then, if you're not in it to win souls. And we're like,
come on, peeps.
That's not really what we're saying. It's not. We're not trying to make converts so much. We know that most of the kids that are going to come to our shows have been living it their whole life. They've grown up in this. So what we wanted to do was to give them something. As far as the songs that I wrote, they could only be from that perspective. I didn't know what it was like to not grow up in a Christian home. I didn't know that. But I knew it was like to struggle as a teenager in one. So that's where my songs came from. And it's the same with these guys here too. The same thing. They didn't know the world from the outside as much. I mean, they saw more of it being on the mission field. But they were still in that Christian kind of cocoon in a sense where your whole life, everything happens right there. And so that's just where that's where my music came from.
And you know something, that really is a good thing. That is such a good thing. It's because, the world isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I've been in the world, and believe me, he who is forgiven much loves much. And for somebody, and the thing is that what that does on a spiritual level is it opens, your life is so much more open to the enemy because he has so much dirt on you that you struggle with it. I mean, I'm not saying you guys don't have some dirt on you from, being flesh. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when you're unhinged in the world, there's just so much. And so when you do become a Christian, there's opportunity for the enemy to come against with a lot of, factual stuff that you remember that he can bring up. So, but I'm just saying that God bless.
Well, I was going to say, it took us a while to be able to get that format, what we were doing, across to people. And we would, every once in a while, the places we'd play, they'd be kind of offended, like, well, you didn't give an altar call. And we'd be like, we just sang for your youth group.
Yeah.
And for the kids here that maybe aren't familiar with it, don't you think they're better served by their friends who brought them to church? Do you think I would be a better person, a stranger, to minister to them in that way? And we were really trying to empower, I guess, the kids that listen to our music to do that.
Well, the sound of your music was joyful. It was dance. It was celebration. I mean, that's the vibe that I got. I just felt, man, this feels good.
That's what we wanted to do.
There was something very deliberate about our intentions when we played, and that was that to relate, and we're talking about relationships, so to relate to those kids that Steve was talking about who have grown up like we did, we're relating on our level, ours and theirs. We're relating. So when we go in, we're playing and relating and associating and connecting with people that have grown up in a box, so to speak, like we did. And we're saying, okay, if you're going to be in this box, let's at least have a party in the box. You know, let's at least
Well, there you go.
let's at least have some
That would have been a
liberty.
good song, actually.
Let's have some liberty. Let's have some liberty
Yeah.
within our connection and our relationship. This is
Yeah.
a safe place. So when Crumbacher went on stage, no matter where we were, we knew we were in a safe place. And we knew that these kids that we were playing to were in a safe place. But most often it was perhaps some others that had issues with us because we were intentionally like a party band, because it's like, okay, let's do this together.
Yeah.
We're gonna get up here.
We ran around. We leaned on each other. I got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Leaning back on Dookie, and we did it. That's what we were doing. The music was joyful, and so were we.
Yeah.
Whether we were at the moment or not.
But we were for
we
an
were,
hour,
and
at
we
least
were
on
like a
stage, right?
family. I mean, we hung out together. We
Yeah.
still do.
Even when we got off the road,
It was.
a day later we'd be having dinner at someone's house.
We would.
But-
We had
but-
kids together. We just did it.
Well,
what
you're
I
brothers
think-
and sisters in the Lord. I mean, that's
Yes.
what you
I
are.
think what some people were
Awesome.
looking for in our performance was really found in the lyrics. And anybody that's a big fan of Crumbacher knows that the content is phenomenal. Speaking of lyrics, if you read our lyrics, it's pretty phenomenal. There's a lot of depth.
Very well thought
Although,
out. Yes.
I don't know if you remember this from the early days. And I won't say who this was, but it was one of the places we played a lot. The
I know.
person who did the concerts told me one night, "You've got to write some songs that people can understand." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He's like, I don't understand what you're singing about here. And I don't think anyone else out there understands these lyrics either. He said, if someone was here from Mars, they should be able to understand your music. I'm thinking,
Wow. This guy might have been from Mars.
Well, he's talking about dumbing it down for Christians.
that's exactly what he
and
was
that's
saying.
not okay.
now, and granted, this was during the time when you had, and again, I'm not saying anything about the other groups, the way they did things, but they were used to hearing this. We're talking early Undercover, early Altar Boys, when you'd get, the lyrics,
Yeah. I'm trying to think
God
of
rules.
God rules.
God rules. Yeah, just simple.
I'm into God,
The hooks.
which was great because it was so simple that you got it right
Was it
away.
like an anthem?
Yeah, and so that's what was so great about those types of songs. The problem is that it's kind of what they started expecting from a lot of the groups, and we weren't that. We didn't have very. Can't think of anything like that we had that was.
No,
more
some of
a-
the choruses, but Steve's lyrics, that's one of the things that drew me to him. Even in high school when you were writing and you would do some of your music, and all the people I was sitting with would be like, what is he? And I'd just be like, what is wrong with you people? These are incredible.
So Don, what, and Jimmy, you brought this up, and so what if a song, give me, like a title
Example, yeah.
of an
Well, I'm
example
looking
where
at
some-
Identical Twins because on
Okay,
the first page.
that's
right
funny
here.
because that's what I was.
I mean,
Identical Twins.
that one, you've got a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yeah,
You really got to dig into the verses and the
Just
lyrics.
can you paraphrase it? Because I know Stephen wrote it, but I would like to hear your perspective on it. Because obviously you guys are aware of this man's talent when it comes to lyrics, and
Yeah. It's one of the reasons it was so hard for me to start writing later. Because I thought I can't do that like that.
That song is a
By the
simple
way.
thought. It's very simple.
Identical
But
Twins,
it's why do I always do what I don't want to do? That's it. But read the rest of them and go from there. It's scriptural.
You know what I had to do though, and a lot of people, it's kind of funny because a lot of people thought it was, I don't know, really something special how I would always find, the scriptures, verses to go with the songs, and I'd
I
always
know.
list
You did
them.
that later.
I
didn't
did
you?
that. I did on
know.
every one of our albums, actually. For every song, I'd have 2 or 3 scripture references
Okay.
for a couple different reasons. Number one, a lot of times, most of the times, these songs did come from something. I went to private schools when I was a child, Christian schools.
Bible was a big part of
I
it.
I knew all this stuff just growing up. So a song like Identical Twins, that was, it's almost verbatim, the first, not verbatim, but kind of it's paraphrase taken from scripture. Why do I always do what I don't want to do? That's directly out of scripture. I just thought it sounded it was a good opening lyric to a song. I thought that'd be good. And then the rest of it I could build around it. But I knew it's like for a song like that, I bet I have to show some references so people aren't confused as to where I'm getting it. And because it was just, I knew these stories in my head just from being raised in it.
Yeah.
It was very easy for me to write about stuff like that, but to put it in contemporary terms, I guess. And I think that's what confused people. I wasn't being literal with with hardly anything I wrote. It was very symbolic, a lot of the stuff I wrote. I think once people got the idea of it, then they appreciated it. But at the very beginning, it was really hard because we weren't as straightforward as a lot of the groups.
When
during
you
the time.
listed those verses, chapters and verses and books, when you listed and they read that, they went there to the Bible, and you were forcing them to go
Well, that's
to the
what I
Word of
figured.
God.
And again, I knew most of the people buying our music were Christian teenagers or their parents.
And where
were
should
buying it for
where
them.
should we all be in the Word?
Right, so I figure it's like, well, I'm really glad you're listening to my stuff, but I just want you to know that this isn't just some idea that I thought of, that there's a background to it, and you can get more and apply even more of it to yourself if you want to, from seeing where those ideas came from.
But you were a writer here, and you're living and breathing the Word. You guys were raised in the church. You were serious about God's Word, and you're now, entertaining and partying in the box and all that with these other Christian believers. But still, there was a seriousness about it in all of the joy and everything, because you were very persistent in saying, listen, we're going to bring you to Jesus. I mean, we're going to be around. We're going to be in your face. We're going to, no matter, we're still going to be around, pointing you to the Lord. And I mean, that's life. That's life-giving. So praise God for Crumbacher.
So why do I always do what I don't want to do? Why can't I always be the better side of me?
Better side of me.
Voices in my heart have often asked me if I'm playing fair or breaking all the rules in this deadly game of double solitaire.
Yep.
Here it is, Identical Twins by Crumbacher. Hey, Adele, how do people hear the music featured on the Rewind shows?
Well, a lot of people like to stream music these days on Apple Music, Spotify, and other digital music stores. And of course, downloads are available on iTunes and Amazon. And if you're a hardcore classic music appreciator, some physical CDs can be purchased on Amazon and our own website, frontlinerecords.us.
Wow, very informative.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that was one of those. I was fortunate enough. I had a dream about that one, and I woke up singing it.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, it didn't happen often enough. As a songwriter, you always hope that you get an easy one like that, and that one was. And Daryl Hall and John Oates were singing it in my dream, so it was pretty good.
Oh, wow.
It was a pretty good song in my dream. So
It's always good to write music for those guys.
So yeah, I woke
Good
up and I'm like,
royalty there.
that's a catchy little tune.
Why didn't we
Well, wait a
get
minute.
a hold of them?
They don't do a song called that. Guess we are now. So, but yeah, that was one of those rare occasions, one of those freebies.
Okay. So who booked the band?
We have a lot of different people.
We kind of wondered that ourselves.
Yeah, it changed a
Or
lot.
who didn't.
Earlier, it was MRC.
Hello?
MRC. I was really shocked actually when we first got
Well,
our
MRC
first.
did a pretty, yeah.
We got our first gig because we got paid for it, and that was something I was always told: don't ever expect to get paid. And we didn't, and they actually got us paid for it, where it was like this is more than gas money, kind of a thing. You know, it wasn't enough to live on, let's say, but it was like, wow, okay, we're not losing to go do this this performance. So MRC was really good. They could get your expenses, and they were really good at finding. They had a good network. They knew the people that they were booking. the
So
bands with,
MRC
and
stands for?
Ministry Resource Center.
Okay.
And that was, I guess, kind of the. It was a branch off of what Maranatha was doing, correct? And
It was really Calvary Chapel of Costa Mesa. Pastor Chuck Smith, that
Yeah.
was kind of his brainchild.
Yeah.
He wanted to help up and coming
yeah, and not
musicians.
everyone recorded a record that was on there, but they were really good at supporting you to kind of help you find your way and to get out there and play. They did a lot of bookings for the high schools in the area. But that was the first. They were the first ones to do it. Marie McGilvery was our first, I guess you'd say, true booking agent. And then we were with street level artists for a while. We were with Christian artists for a while. And then we started booking ourselves after a while. So, a lot of different
So did you do a lot of churches? A lot of youth group type
Yeah.
things?
It was
and-
almost all, either if it wasn't in a church, it was sponsored by the local church. If it was in a club, it was the church renting it out, or a festival or something like that. We didn't do. I can't think of one situation where it wasn't a church sponsored
Yeah,
thing.
pretty much.
Because, like I said, we knew the people buying our stuff. They were
Yeah.
churched.
That was
the-
your audience.
The festivals, we made it to all the festivals and went back,
Yeah.
except
So-
So when you did the festivals, though, those were kind of different things where they had a variety of different acts. And what were some of the big festivals that you did?
Creation.
Yeah.
We did main
And where
stage
was
at Creation.
Where was that?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I think we did that too.
We
Yeah,
did
I'm
Cornerstone
sure we
one year.
Yeah.
Cornerstone.
Did you do the main stage at Cornerstone?
No, we were brand new. Our album had just come out, actually. We did their inside stage,
Yeah.
but it was
a big venue.
it was still the biggest audience I think we'd ever played to at that time, and it was loud and fast paced, and it was a new world for
Was
us.
it fun?
It was
amazing.
a blast.
Yeah.
All the bands went together
Yes.
on the same plane
All of us.
because MRC booked us, and
Daryl Mansfield.
that was nuts.
Oh, yeah?
Undercover, the
At the
Altar
airport,
Boys,
yeah.
Youth Choir. Anyone who was playing music, I think in Southern California at the time, was on that flight.
Yeah,
For Cornerstone.
For Cornerstone that one year. I think it was 85 that we played. So
yeah, that was a good one. After that, we started playing the other festivals. As the albums progressed, we had singles that were making.
Did you get radio airplay?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
We got a lot actually.
not from Incandescent as much, but
Not
the
from
other.
Incandescent as much, from the others we did. If I found this one thing, I don't know how I found it. It sounds like I probably look for myself on the internet all the time, but I really don't. I don't know if I was looking for something. I don't know what it was, but I found this thing. It was a chart. It said that 100 most successful Christian bands of the 80s. And and it was based on airplay, and we're in there.
Oh.
We're number 88, which makes it easy because piano keys, 88 piano keys.
Yeah.
You can remember that. And it's funny because I looked for other groups that I know sold way more records than we sold. They weren't on the list. I'm like, what is this based on
This is
anyways?
on radio.
And then I saw it was based on radio. So we really did. We got some great airplay. I guess it goes to show that that didn't always translate into sales.
It didn't. But it did. It did translate into booking.
It did. We saw
think
that
so.
change immediately as soon as
But
we started getting played.
there was a problem. Those
was
were
that?
all of our ballads that were mostly
that was
played,
the thing.
and that people knew. So when we would get there and our show would start, it's like
In the box.
they wanted us in the box, and that's not what we were doing.
This is what I was
Because there was
speaking of.
one album, one ballad on that album, and so
That's the one they were familiar with when we showed up.
Wow.
And what they got was party.
I think that was the one. That was the one the parents who brought their kids to the shows were familiar
Yeah.
with.
Okay, so what
kids
was
knew what they
was
were
this?
going
For
to
example, what was this ballad? What was
Well,
the
Here Am
title of
I
this
was
ballad?
our first
Here Am
really
I?
big song. It's called Here Am I, and that was one. I mean, it was literally a song that I was told you need to write something that they can play on the radio, and I tried, and it just wasn't happening. And then finally, I don't know, I just got frustrated. I don't know if it was Barry or who it was I was channeling.
Barry White.
He probably helped.
no,
a
it
little
wasn't that cool.
yeah, it wasn't that. So it was definitely more middle of the road.
Okay, not that Barry.
Closer to Barry Manilow than Barry.
Oh, Barry Manilow.
But
Oh, Mandy.
I remember thinking I've got to just make this as simple as I can. Stop overthinking it. And then I wrote Here Am I on the car ride home from a meeting at Frontline.
Oh, wow.
When I was told you need to write a song we can play on the radio, and I was very frustrated with that. Like, you didn't like anything I just played for you here. And I did. I just stop overthinking it, and I kind of wrote it on the car ride home, and I wasn't even all that impressed with it. And then I played it for the A&R people, and they're like, that is a number one song. And I thought, okay, if you say so. And they were right. It was our one and only number one song. And
Wow.
But then we did see, to their point, that we were starting to get bookings then. Because, I mean, and it makes sense. If they're going to say, come see this group, they need to be able to play a song on the radio afterwards, or no one's going to know who you are. So it was a valid point. And the one thing also we found too is the more we did that, the more we were allowed to kind of expand a little bit beyond that middle of the road, easy listening, one song per album kind of thing. Because I'd listen, and even at the time, people like Amy Grant were trying to do more rock-oriented stuff, and I'm like, well, what about her? She's doing up-tempo songs, and they play her. Well, she's Amy Grant. She can do whatever she wants. You're not her yet, So but we did find we got a little bit more freedom, and then songs like Speechless got played after that. Whereas they didn't want to hear anything with a lot of drums in it.
So would you do
earlier,
us the honor and introduce that song for us right now?
Sure, our one and only number one song from the Thunder Beach album, Here Am I.
Colorful illusion slipping from my hands, miscast in confusion. Lord, help me understand where I'm supposed to be all through the day, into the night, the rest of my life. Here am I, here am I, just a single voice to lift your name up high. Though I'm serving you in my own less than perfect way, you love me even still, for in return you say, here am I. Willing unto action, taken by extremes, touch and go attraction. Yet this is where it seems that I was meant to be. All through the day, into the night, the rest of my life. Here am I, here am I, just a single voice to lift your name up high. Though I'm serving you in my own less than perfect way, you love me even still, for in return you say, here am I. Waiting on your answer with every word I pray. And now I can hear you say, here am I, here am I. And the voice of many angels fills the sky, loving me in your own awesome perfect way. All you asked of me was that I learned to say, here am I.
Adele, I heard something about critics, Critics Corner on Frontline Records. I mean, is that like Rotten Tomatoes?
Well, usually fans of our Rewind show or our amazing Frontline artists write encouraging reviews. No rotten ones that I've seen.
I hope not.
They also get to select a free album download as a thank you.
Wow. Can I get a free album download also?
Sure, just go to frontlinerecords.us and write something nice about me, and I'll make sure you get something nice.
Oh, it's easy to write nice things about you.
Oh, you're so nice.
All right, did you guys have fun? I mean,
Yeah.
did you have fun?
Oh, it was
Absolutely.
great.
That's great. Thank you.
I saw you.
Yeah.
I heard you guys singing live here and everything in this. It was amazing. I saw your hearts and your faces light up when you were singing together again. It's been a great time. Thank you very much. This is the end of the Crumbacher show, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Crumbacher, did you love it?
We did.
did.
Thank
Do you
you
love
so
your
much.
fans?
Go
Thank you,
listen.
Frontline.
Do you love your?
We love our fans. We do. Thank you
love
so
them?
much.
Oh, tell them how much you love them.
Thank you so much
love
for
you.
We love
listening.
you
We do
guys.
love you guys.
We love you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Frontline Records Rewind.
Frontline Records Rewind.
Frontline Records Rewind.